you're just adding words to words.
Is that not how sentences work?
Someone commented, it was like, that's how English, that's how languages work. You just add words to words.
That's how the conversations work. You talk.
Like you take a word and then you add another thing to it, and lo and behold, it creates some sort of...
This is how we communicate as humans.
Form of communication. There you go, yeah.
Me no understand. Ugh. Ugh. Ugh.
Hey, welcome to the JRPG Pursuit, a podcast about all things JRPGs, from the games we collect to the games we play and everything in between. My name is Abdallah, and joining me are my two amazing co-hosts.
I'm Emily.
And I'm Branden. My voice is cracking already.
Oh my God.
We're off to a great start, you guys.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, here we are. We're back at it. Another week. You haven't gotten rid of us yet.
You can keep trying, but we'll keep clawing our way back.
And
no, you guys have all been great. I'm just
keep
kidding.
Cracking through it. So
I thought that was supposed to end like 25 years ago. Nope. No such luck.
JRPGs revert us to teenage. I think that's the magic of youth, right? The fountain of youth is through JRPGs.
It is. I've been in a perpetual state of adolescence because of JRPGs, and it can work for you too.
Yes.
It could work for me.
I don't even know what we're talking about anymore.
I don't know. We'll go with that. Yes.
Are we doing an episode? Is that happening?
Today's an episode. Speaking of crazy conversations, you guys should check out our Discord. I mean, it's getting pretty wild there. There's a lot of really good stuff. I've been having a lot of fun with it. I know, like earlier this week, they were asking us like how we feel about the Discord and how we feel about everything going on. And like, honestly, it's been fun. It's been so much fun chatting with everybody. Really cool. Lots of really good conversations.
Yeah, a lot of like-minded people just having fun.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And we're trying to keep the Trails discussions to a minimum, but it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's
hard.
Difficult.
We have a separate chat room for them. So if you don't like Trails, don't feel like you're going to be inundated with that stuff, because we just keep that off to the side. Don't worry.
Don't worry. Harvestella is mentioned in every chat area. So.
Oh, yeah. I make sure that it gets in there.
Yeah.
I just inserted
it. Might be more in this podcast, too, later on.
It could be. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Stay tuned.
It'll probably come up. Who knows? But yes, check it out. Let us know. We have our after shows that we record as well after the podcast, and they're a lot of fun. I know our last one was a deep dive and a pretty long one, so lots of meaty conversations going on there. So check it out.
Yeah, if you are not currently a member and you're interested in supporting the show, we would greatly appreciate it. We're very grateful to all the members we have right now. You guys are all incredible.
Wonderful.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. But to get started with today's episode, I think we were looking into getting into the discussion of difficulty or lack thereof, depending on what you decide to choose. Depending on so looking at games in general, looking at JRPGs, like how do we feel about easy modes, hard modes,
nightmare
modes if you're into Trails, or anything else. There's plenty of nightmare modes out there. It's pretty standard nightmare.
They may be known by different names, but you know what that means, right?
You know what we're talking about. It's
just soul-crushingly difficult video games.
Or just cruising it on easy mode. Sometimes people prefer that. So today we just wanted to compare the two, right? Like, do we kind of change up our preference depending on the game, or is there some sort of feelings behind which path you choose in the broader community? I think there's a lot of fun things to discuss in this episode.
I would like to know from you guys, especially like as we have this discussion, like has that changed over time? Like, have you, did you one day decide that, like, you know what, I'm an easy mode kind of person? I'm
just ramp up that difficulty to create a challenge.
Or I hate myself and I want to go deep into
Well, I've always been there, but that's had nothing to do with video game difficulty.
True. That's 100%
Come on. I'm an anxiety-riddled, middle-aged man. Of course I hate myself. Give me a break. No, absolutely. I know what you mean. Difficulty never was a thing that I thought much about as a kid, at least. Like growing up with JRPGs, in the early days, especially, you didn't really have a choice.
Yeah, there were no options really. You just played the game.
It was just however hard the game was. And
just played it.
fortunately or unfortunately, you only got a few games a year, so you would push your way through that challenge no matter how hard it was. Yeah, and you would just be the best. I don't know. Like, what about you guys? Did you play, did you find early games more challenging or what?
I think it depends on what games you were around. Like, I did play a lot of kid-centric games, like on the PC when I was, very young. And so those never had super difficult levels or anything like that. But on consoles, I feel like it was a bit of a mixed bag. Sometimes you would have a game where you would just get stuck for hours and not know what to do. I remember watching my brother play Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater as a kid, and he didn't understand the controls. Like, I think he played it when he was like 10 at the time or something. And his mind was like, I think it took him like 3 hours to understand how to like move like Snake around. It was a little bit funny, but I don't know. It's just interesting how we've kind of changed, difficulty abilities, I think, in gaming throughout the years, as both like an accessibility standpoint, but also as a way to create kind of artificial challenge if you find that more fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think like if you look back at like the history of gaming, and even if we're not looking at JRPGs per se, the NES, everything on the NES was like, I felt like was just automatically hard mode. Because that was how they made games longer.
Yeah.
They're just like, I'm just going to like, because some of these games,
especially,
like, if it was on easy mode, you could beat it in like 30, like,
there was nothing to it. Well,
maybe.
Especially in the US, right? Like they made games harder to bring them over here because we had a rental market.
Yeah, David Vincent was telling us about that, I think, when he was on our podcast a few weeks or months ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, like they needed to make it hard because you'd rent that game, take it back, you were done with it.
Exactly.
Like,
no return on investment there, really, for them.
No, that's not a great business model. So
recheck it out, like rerun the game, and have to keep going through it because you're just like, because you have to play it multiple times to even get like one level can sometimes take you like days to perfect. Because like, I mean, if you look at like Ninja Gaiden, let's say, for back in the day, like that game was unforgivable as you got through it. Like there are some levels in there that are just like brutal. Like, they're great, but like, I mean, they're cheap brutal, where you get like knocked off a stage constantly, and and the eagle keeps coming back at you, and it keeps
This comes back to arcade games too, right? Because that's how you kept inserting that coin into the arcade machine and get the high score.
That was the value proposition for the arcade owner, right? It's like, this game is so hard that people are going to be giving you so much money to play it.
Yeah. So honestly, like, I felt like in the early days of gaming, you really didn't have any options, but always kind of leaned on the harder side of things. There were some games that were like less hard, but I mean, like Emily was saying, there's some games catered to children, especially in the PC world where you have a click,
the point and click adventures and stuff like that.
Point and click adventures that were a little bit easier, a little bit more fun, and
educational games. Like, they don't want to stunt your growth to learn stuff.
Right.
No, exactly.
You're not good enough to get smart. You got to be stupid. You get to stay stupid.
Unless you're playing Oregon Trail and you're just dying constantly from dysentery. So, I don't know.
That's the point of it, though.
Yeah,
that
was the point.
Us the harrowing difficulty of history.
Yes. I remember playing it one time, and then I think my whole party died of measles, and then I never picked it up again.
Yeah.
I mean, if they all died,
measles.
That's it.
That was it.
Yeah, what a way to go. What a way to go. Measles on the trail.
Measles on the trail. But
the early days of the video games is one thing. JRPGs, like we said, there wasn't really, action games sometimes would have difficulty levels where you would get extra lives, or there would be fewer enemies or something like that. I don't remember the first time I saw a difficulty option for a JRPG. Would it have been maybe in the PS1 or 2 eras?
I would say like PS2. There must
I can't think of any PS1 games that were like that.
I can't think of one off the top of my head.
Yeah, I can't either.
Because like most of the PS1 games I've played, like they've all just been like, you just start the game. Like there's no.
That's normal mode.
I know like PS2 had some. I can't quite remember which ones.
I feel like they must have, right? If any of you listening can think of the earliest JRPG that you can recall seeing difficulty settings, and let us know. I'd be curious. It's just that it doesn't seem like a thing up until a certain point when it was like suddenly ubiquitous. Every game seems nowadays like it has difficulty options.
You're like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
Wild.
Oh, yeah. Like a broad spectrum of difficulty.
Yeah.
It's not always clear what the difficulty does, like what changing it actually does to the game. So I'm curious about that for a lot of games, like, especially in the JRPG space. Are you just giving me more experience if I make it easier? Are you giving the enemies fewer hit points? What does it mean?
Are you invincible? You can't die.
Right, or like Dragon Quest 3, where it's like, okay, they're just patting me on the head and being like, it's okay, don't worry about it, Branden. You just have fun, just play the game, have fun. We won't let anything bad happen to you.
They also have like modes like story mode though, where if you aren't interested in the combat, you can still get through the story by choosing that mode instead.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
And I wonder how much of that was like a reaction to sort of the vitriol that exists in some of the broader gaming community towards like easy mode in things. Calling it story mode is like, clearly you're here for the story and you don't care as much about the gameplay. Like, that to me seems like a way of kind of, I don't know, papering over that fight.
I think it's also making it obvious, like you're here for the story, you're not here for the combat. So maybe it kind of spells it out more to the player to select that mode if that's what they're interested, more than trying to become an expert in the combat.
There's like less stigma to it, I think. Where you're like, oh yeah, like I wear that badge of honor on my sleeve that I only like to play the story. Like I don't care about the battling, I don't care about all those things. Not me per se, but I'm saying like as a person who says those things, like that's where you can go from that and then just say like, hey, I like to play story mode, and it doesn't sound as bad as like I'm gonna play on easy mode because
easy mode's for chumps. No.
Well, honestly, it's not. Like
it's not. I'm saying this with sarcasm.
Exactly. Everybody can choose what they like, but at the same time, like I look at it as like the interesting thing is like when you say like the retro RPGs were like a different breed compared to other games, because like with other games you couldn't just like it was hard to brute strength your way through the game. Even if it was hard, you had to get good. That was the whole purpose of it. Like you have to figure out how to get good at like Ninja Gaiden to get through it. But with like RPGs, I think back in the day, was the interesting thing about it is that you could just keep leveling.
Yeah, it's all about the grind.
You can
overpower yourself.
That was the slider. The difficulty slider was how much time are you willing to invest in grinding.
Exactly.
If you're willing to invest a dozen hours up front grinding, you're going to find the game to be pretty easy, right?
That was how you would, like back in the day, that's how you would decide. That would be your deciding factor of like, do I want this to be an easy process, or do I want to just challenge myself by like, limiting my levels so that way every battle is a difficult one when you get to the bosses, or you just get real OP right up front and just power through the rest of the game. And so like that, I felt like that's how like the original like was more catered to like on you as a person and whether you enjoyed grinding and that process in general.
Also, just
whether it was up front or sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say also, like when we were younger, we didn't have that many maybe games available to us. So we had the time to sink into those if we owned the game and didn't have to resort to renting them out all the time.
Yeah.
Right.
And you were a kid, and you could play for like...
Oh, yeah. Your attention spam. You could just be zeroed in on it for hours.
In the summer, you playing on the summer, you've got... Look at the... You could be running around outside, but don't do that. There's bees out there.
There's sun. You could get
Stay in your room.
Skin cancer.
The sunburn. That's not a good grind. The grind is where it's at. It's also it's you can grind up front and get strong and make the game easier, but it also kind of acts as sort of a gatekeeper for the story, right? Like there come points at we call them difficulty spikes when we're talking about JRPGs, where you hit a difficulty spike and it's like, do I care enough about the story that I am willing to take a step back from progressing it to get strong enough to continue? Or do I give up? So they're kind of like off ramps for these older games, especially. I hit one. The one that sticks out in my mind is like the one that hurts the most is the original Grandia. I loved it up until the very end. I got to the end of the game, final dungeon, last boss. Similar story to Star Ocean, the second story as well. Last boss, could not get past it. So like I could have decided to grind for, I don't know, 2 hours, maybe 3 hours, get strong enough, push my way through it. But at that point, I just was burnt out and I gave up. So in that way, like I was kind of gate-kept out of the ending, even though I had played through the rest of the game with very little to no problems. Yeah. So
it's always so frustrating when that happens.
I know.
I think it happened to me with a difficulty. Yeah, Radiant Historia Perfect Chronology. I think the third path or something, I had this really difficult boss fight. I was like so close to beating it, and every time I just die, and I gave up out of frustration after a while.
Yeah. Then it's like YouTube, Radiant Historia, ending, go.
Just watch it.
Exactly.
No, that's the beauty of having YouTube for that.
But also,
that's the modern day benefit.
Definitely. But I do, like, I think when I did look it up for the Perfect Chronology side story part, I was like, oh, it was only this. I'm glad I didn't waste a few more days on this.
Invest the time in,
that
pushing
happened to
through
me.
it.
I think I was playing Star Ocean 3 till the end of time.
Okay.
And I was in the last, dungeon going up to the boss, and I didn't realize how severely under leveled I was compared to what I should have been. I mean, I thought I leveled a lot when I was playing it, but when I got to the boss, I just got myself handed to me every time. And I was the worst thing about it is that there was no way for me to get out of where I was. So I was locked. It was like a hard lock of I couldn't go and get any healing items or buy anything, and so I couldn't grind really, and there was nothing left to grind. I couldn't find so I was just stuck. I just kept trying to be maybe I can figure out, I can get really good at dodging and doing all these things and just trying to win. And I remember doing that for so long, and at some point I was just you know what, this guy is just so powerful that even if I'm really good, one mistake, he just destroys me. And so, I just I finally beat the game after a while. But the first initial time I played it, I basically had to give up on that whole game. And then I came back to it years later to replay it because it hurt so bad.
Yeah.
Something like that almost happened to me with Fantasia Neo Dimension, to talk about a very modern game.
Okay.
There's a part, it's during the second half of the game when things kind of open up, like Final Fantasy VI style, where it kind of goes a little more, not open world exactly, but you can tackle things in a variety of different orders.
Yeah.
I went to this dungeon, and the way you enter the dungeon, they make it seem, from a story perspective, you are stuck there. You cannot get out until you solve whatever is going on here.
Oh boy, okay.
And so I was like, okay, no big deal. I'm going to get through this. I was banging my head against the wall of this boss in this dungeon, and I was like, I'm out of stuff. I can't heal myself. I can't do anything. I'm out of everything. And I was like, what? Am I going to have to restart this game because I can't leave? Well, you can leave. But in a way that completely contradicts what the storyline said, you are stuck here. You actually can leave, but they just don't emphasize it in the plot. So I was like, oh, okay. I'm glad I wasted, I think, at least 3 hours trying to beat this boss.
That's too funny. Those situations, and I think that goes to talk about in the recent years where you can just play a battle, and if you keep losing, it gives you this option to be would you you seem to be having a really hard time right now. Do you want to? It's almost, it feels bad. They're it's a little condescending of the game of
they're there.
It's all right. Here, pat you on the back. It's okay. Do you want to play in baby mode?
This was really hard, wasn't it? Do you want to just carry on? That's fine. We won't tell anybody.
Man, those. I don't. Where they could just skip it.
Yeah. Those are my favorite. I will admit to having taken advantage of that once or twice over the years. Yes.
But that just makes it, I think, easier to commit to a game, because we just are so spoiled for choice nowadays that when we do encounter those roadblocks with a certain difficulty mode on a certain game, or we're being kind of like soft locked into an area that we can't get out of and maybe grind up or level up in some way, it just just allows a little bit more flexibility for the players. Like, we don't have to be an expert and have to do the entire checklist to power up our players in a particular way so to beat that boss or something. I think a lot of modern games are kind of understanding how to make it a little bit easier on the player, and not be so rigid with you have to beat it in this way or else you don't get the ending.
Right. It's a really interesting way to tackle the idea of difficulty levels without even really needing to create difficulty levels,
explicitly say you're playing on easy mode or normal mode or something like that.
Right. It's like if I'm playing a boss and I lose 3 times in a row, the game says, hey, you want to just move on? That's okay. And I think that's great, because like you're the trash mobs that you're fighting, random battles or whatever, fine, you need to fight those or run away or whatever. But the gatekeepers, the things that are blocking progression in the story, giving you the option of just bypassing it, moving on. Who does that hurt? You could say no. Yeah. You could be like, no, I'm going to keep trying and I'm going to beat this thing because I care about the gameplay. And that's fine. Like, do that. But, having the ability for somebody who's just interested in the story to just move on. Yeah. I think that's great.
I think so too, because like, as you said, like, if you like the challenge, you don't have to accept the default lowering the difficulty level or something like that. You can spend the hours to grind it out and feel accomplished once you do beat it at that normal mode or the high difficulty mode or whatever you set it to.
Yeah. I do respect like game developers that do make it where you can switch the difficulty level on the fly throughout the game, because like there's some like that require you like, hey, if you choose easy off the bat, you are stuck with easy for the rest of the game, or if you choose normal, you are stuck with normal the rest of the game. And so like a lot of the time if I go down the normal range, sometimes I like to throw it in easy if I'm gonna grind for like an hour, and so that way you can just like grind through some mobs. It's easy battles, and you can kind of turn your brain off and just like do that without having to worry about like every battle being like intense and crazy and like having to go through the process of like life or death every time when you're just trying to grind at that point.
But the developers also created a situation where you have to spend a long time to grind in order to make progress. So it's on them to kind of give us, that easy mode if we don't want to spend those hours doing that.
Yes.
The difficulty switching that bothers me and feels kind of, I'm sure it's not, but it feels a little vindictive, is when you start on a higher difficulty, hard or normal, and then you decrease it, but you can't
you get stuck there.
Increase it back. You they're like, if you decrease the difficulty level, the rest of this playthrough, you are on that lower difficulty level.
It's like you failed.
That to me,
failed the game.
It's like I don't understand what they're communicating there, or if they're like, if there is some, I'm sure in some cases there are like legitimate programmatic reasons why that's the case, right?
Yeah,
probably. But it feels vindictive, and it's not a pleasant thing, because then you really have to think like, well, 99% of this game, I am perfectly happy with the difficulty, but it's just this one thing, this one boss or whatever that's stopping me up. Like, am I willing to give it up? Like, give up the rest of my enjoyment of this game to switch it down, or what? And I don't know. Hey, everybody, we're back. I'm telling this, I'm putting this in here so that my future self knows, hey, let's put a cut there because we had some technical difficulties. We're back. Everybody is fluid and moving and seen visible.
Okay.
All right. Well. So I think what we were saying, we were just talking about I don't remember actually what we were on.
I think you were
about difficulty levels, the lowering difficulties and locking you there.
And then locking you into that path. Yes. Yeah. So it's like, I was saying, if you were enjoying the difficulty 99% of the game, but this one little thing is holding you up, then you're locked in to this lower path and you don't want to do that. That's frustrating. So, I don't understand that locking you in on a difficulty path once you change it thing.
I think it's so that they don't like increase their difficulty at the end or something and then claim, oh, I beat this on hard mode for like cred or something, which I think is silly. Like, who cares?
It is, yeah.
Also, who cares? Like,
who cares?
Like, if I were to go online and been like, all right, I'm going to post on a Twitter, hey guys, I beat Persona 5 on hard mode. Everyone's going to be like,
here's
cool
my screen cap of it being on hard mode.
Good job.
Cool story, bro. Also,
pro gamer.
I'm going to go on with my life and act like I never interacted.
Yeah.
So, like, that is what it is.
It doesn't
matter.
It doesn't matter.
Really, nobody cares. It's all for your own, like, I don't know. Since your eternal self, it doesn't matter.
But I think it's also the devs kind of saying, like, you had to have done it all in hard mode in order to feel like you accomplished hard mode.
You really did accomplish
Especially
it,
if you're if you're tied to, like, let's say if you're doing trophies. Like, all right, like if you're trying to get the trophy for hard mode or nightmare mode or something, whatever it is, then I can see
that, I guess.
Like, they're not going to let you just go up and down and go like, hey, I'm going to do
easy mode way around it.
99% of this game, and then right the end of it, I'm going to switch to nightmare or whatever it is, hard mode, and then beat it, and then get that trophy. It's not like
I feel like trophies and achievements like have gone a long way towards kind of creating this environment where people are like care about this sort of thing more than I think
judgmental
they should, in a judgmental sort of way, where it's like, oh, I've got all these platinums, or I don't know what the equivalent on Xbox is.
I don't think they call it
Chivos. They get their Chivos.
They're achievements. I don't know what the final achievement is.
100%. Yeah, I don't know.
Points.
All achievements? I don't know.
Yeah, you get all the achievements on a game, or you platinum it. It may not be. Let me know if we're wrong about that, folks, if there's a name for getting all the achievements on an Xbox game.
There must be. I feel naive not knowing, but...
yeah. But like, right? Like, by kind of gamifying stuff that's not even... Like, it's in the game, but it's like kind of... What's the word? Supercilious?
It's very secondary, I would say.
Yeah, like, it's more superfluous, like stuff around the main body of the game, and like gamifying all of that stuff. Like, oh, you got all of your characters to level 99. Who cares? Like, what? Like, to me, that's like big flipping deal, man. You spend a lot of time like jamming X. Good.
Well, we're not trophy hunters or whatever.
We're not. Yeah, I'm definitely not trophy hunter.
We're biased in this regard. Like, I could see how some people might feel a sense of accomplishment for, getting whatever the devs designed as hard mode. It's getting the platinum trophy or whatever equivalent there is.
And I
achieving
understand that feeling.
That's great.
Too. Like, I understand it.
If you have limited games, like, and you want to beat them, like 100%.
Yeah, that's true. And I understand the feeling of like wanting, let's say if you're like on PlayStation, you want to platinum the game. It kind of feels like, okay, I completed everything that the game,
offered.
The developers have given me to do in this game, but like, I feel like, I've platinumed a handful of games in my years, nothing crazy hard, but I've platinumed some games, and you do feel like a sense of like, oh, okay, like that's a check box kind of. Like,
well, I'm sure I would feel it too. It triggers that
little like brain like.
Little dopamine hit there.
You get a dopamine hit from it, like, for sure. I just mean I don't like if your achievement, your achievement or your trophy is like get all of your characters to level 99. I'm sorry, but that is a dumb trophy. Like, don't do that, developer, right? Like, not even the player. Like, that's a goofy trophy that doesn't mean anything. It means that you were willing to spend a lot of time on the game, right?
Yeah. Well, how do we feel about having trophies of like the second playthrough of a game, but on a harder level? I don't know. Like, I don't find that rewarding personally, but maybe some people do if they really like a game.
Yeah.
Because like, that's usually if I'm close to getting, let's say, a platinum or anything like that, the one thing that's like not getting me the platinum is going to be like, hey, replay this on like the hardest mode, this new hard mode that just popped up, and and at that point I'm just
that
like,
you can select from the beginning.
Yeah,
right.
Like, I'm just like, I don't have the time for that.
Yeah.
No, there's so many other games to enjoy.
Trying to put myself in the mindset of somebody who cares about like platinuming everything. And like, to me, if I did want to do that, I would be annoyed if I didn't have the possibility of getting every trophy on one playthrough. You know?
No, I hate that. Like,
yeah,
that's like a pet peeve of mine is like, if I look it up and I'm like, all right, is there a way for me to like, if I wanted to get all the trophies, could I do it in one playthrough? And it says like, you know, you have those like PSN trophy websites, or there's a couple of websites that help you, like tells you how many playthroughs it takes.
Mm-hmm. The guides and stuff, yeah.
The guides, and so I'll look it up just for curiosity's sake, and it'd be like, oh, you have to do it like 2 or 2.5 times, and I'm sitting there going like, well, that's annoying. Yeah. I don't have time to play it 2.5 times, and like, you know, let's say Final Fantasy 16, because like I remember that, like that's a recent one where I played it. I'm like, all right, I did everything, minus. Literally everything. I got like everything else minus like, hey, replay this on hard mode, and it was like a new hard mode that wasn't you couldn't get it initially, could you?
Yeah, you had to beat the game to get it.
Yeah,
Final Fantasy mode or whatever.
Yeah, like I was like, well, couldn't you just give that as an option for those who want to play it in the beginning, so that way you don't have to replay the whole game, because those like RPGs are long. Like we had a whole episode about it. It's like, you know, sometimes they just take a while, and like
that's the respecting your time thing again, like, right? By making you play through the game multiple times just to achieve everything.
Yeah,
that's bad trophy design. I'm sorry,
that's just bad trophy by design. Choice. Like you could replay a game if you want to, but not just
absolutely,
for a trophy. I don't know.
Like sometimes like I like replaying games, but like not right away. Like I don't want to jump
I like a break too.
Back in. Like
there's the whole not right away thing, and yeah, it's just like I don't know. It just feels like that's an easy way out if you're trying to design a good trophy setup for a game. It's cheap.
Yeah. But I like at the same time, like, you know, playing devil's advocate to the other side, there's a lot of people out there who like to perfect their gameplay. And so like let's say with Final Fantasy 16, let's say use that same example, is that like they want to test their chops on the battle system and how good they are at action combat, and they'll play it on hard mode after, and they'll just like get really deep into that game and play that for 200 plus hours just to kind of like get really good at it. And so like there's people out there who love that stuff, and
it's popular in Trails too, because you have to really know how to use the orbment system to get the right arts and, you know, team configuration and accessories. To, you know, up the stats of your team members and choosing the right team members, because some of them are not so great on Nightmare mode compared to others.
Yeah, Nightmare mode on Trails is brutal.
Thinking about all that goes into optimizing a playthrough for Nightmare, and like in Trails in particular, but kind of across JRPGs, it really emphasizes for me how much I don't care for all of the stuff you need to do to be good at that. Like optimizing the orbments and Trails, for example. I don't want to do it. If they had an auto, some of them I think do have like an auto.
Most of them have auto.
I just do that. I don't care. I don't
Does
care.
Daybreak?
I like playing around with them. I think Daybreak in particular is fun to play around with, but not just to make me better. It's more of I get this new ability.
Yeah, no shade to people like to play around with it. I just don't I don't want to do it. Like I just want to play. I just want to play the game.
That's why they make it so that it's accessible to a lot of people. If you want to, you know, get knee deep into the systems, you can. But also, if you just want to auto equip stuff, that's perfectly an option too.
I think that's where
they have like 5 or 6 difficulty levels on most Trails games.
Yeah,
is that
sounds right.
Your recollection?
Because I think with Daybreak,
from very easy to Nightmare.
Yeah, you have like easy, then you have even one like very easy.
There's very
story.
easy.
I think there's very easy. Yeah. And the normal hard Nightmare.
And so like, I particularly love like, I don't know, I'm like with you, Emily, on that. I love messing with the orbments. Like, it's fun to see like the different things you can do, and like I something so satisfying of building like an evasive tank. And another thing's like you can just create these really cool like ways to like just break the system sometimes.
You can.
And I find that just the most interesting, even if I'm not playing it on a hard mode or anything like that. Like, it's just fun to do that, and that's probably why it takes me so long to do these games, now that I think about it. I was complaining about this earlier. I'm like, man, I spend way too much time playing these games sometimes, and it's probably...
Yeah, I think I think Emily and I, my playthroughs of Daybreak were around the same, and then Dallah's like closing in at like 30 to 40% more time than.
Which is okay. Like,
it's fine.
Take your
totally
time.
Fine.
It's a journey. You're supposed to enjoy games.
If you're not enjoying yourself, then what are you doing?
It's true, and I'm loving every moment of it, so I'm not complaining about that.
That's how you should. That's how you should be playing.
But
I have a question for you guys, though.
Sure.
Yes.
When you're given a new JRPG, if you're given an option for a difficulty setting, what do you go to usually? Like, what's your automatic default setting?
The default. I go normal, personally.
Yeah.
I start normal every time. Pretty much regardless of whether or not, I like it when it tells you what's different about the game, or like this is ideal for people that only care about the story, or this is ideal for people that like action games or whatever. I start with normal, and I give myself the grace and latitude to change it up if I'll never go higher than normal. I can't think of a time I ever went higher than normal, but I will decrease it if I want to continue experiencing the story, but I'm kind of, over the gameplay,
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
How about you, Abdallah?
I'm the same way, I think. I'll start on normal. I'm more lenient to move to easy on a lot of different things sometimes, like in the middle and stuff like that, just because I do take some time to get through some of these games, and if I do it on normal, I would be playing these games for hundreds of hours sometimes. And I just don't have a lot of time. And for me, I feel like playing on normal and then drifting between normal and easy is a good balance of being able to get through a game quickly. But, still when I get to bosses, I like to, make sure that I'm on normal mode at all times, just because that way I can play it the way the base difficulty should be, unless I'm getting my butt kicked, and here I am. Yeah. But
I think similarly. I usually default to normal because I'm always interested, what difficulty level does the devs kind of think will appeal to most people, and have that, be their base standard. But depending on the franchise, sometimes I change it up, because there's some games that I like doing hard mode, like some of the Fire Emblem games, I prefer hard mode, just because I find it a little bit more challenging. I think once you kind of get the mechanics of Fire Emblem and a lot of the entries, it gets a little bit too easy. And so I just feel like I'm sailing through it without much resistance, which I like a little bit of resistance when I'm playing. But then there's other franchises like SMT. I find those very difficult, and I prefer having those set on easy mode, because I feel like that's still challenging for me to play at. So usually default's normal, but depending on, the type of game, sometimes I go lower. Another example of this was Baldur's Gate 3. I went with story mode because I never played a Western, dice rolling mechanic RPG. And I didn't know what to expect. And I've really actually enjoyed just that easier mode personally. I don't feel like I'm getting any sort of frustrations with the combat or anything, but it's not too easy where I'm sailing through everything. So, I think the difficulty levels range depending on the type of game. Even what they,
you mentioned names. You mentioned the normal difficulty level being kind of the way the developers balanced it to appeal to most people or whatever. That raises an interesting question about difficulty levels in general, where it's how are they making the difficulty levels? Chances are they're not investing that much time and effort in creating them. Probably they are most likely decreasing the number of hit points that an enemy has, or giving you more experience points. They're kind of they're probably using math, right? They're probably using formulas.
They're doing some balance mechanics, I think, of what they think, or it's possible during the the game development phase, they have a trial run to see how many people could beat this at this setting, or is this fun at this setting.
But what I mean, though, is isn't that essentially the same? Essentially, they're changing the math and saying you're going to do more damage, you're going to take less damage. And
it's all balancing.
Right, and determining how balanced the game is. Sure.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me, though, is games that are designed in such a way that a difficulty level is sort of not even necessary, because you kind of determine how easy or difficult the game is by how you choose to play it. So the classic example of that, and I know this is a firestorm online, is the Souls games, Dark Souls, Bloodborne, etc., Elden Ring. People have been saying for years, put an easy mode into the Souls games or whatever. And if they wanted to do that, fine. Make enemies have fewer hit points, give you better defense stats by default or something. Okay, sure. But the thing that I like about Elden Ring, as someone who is very bad at video games, Elden Ring and Souls, what I love about them is you are 100% in control of how you choose to play those games. And if I want to play it so that it's easier for me, there are very easy things that I can do to make the game a lot easier for myself, particularly Elden Ring. And I just like that concept of giving the player, like creating essentially a gameplay world, whether it's like the systems all interconnect with each other and whatnot, and like teaching you how to use those systems and then saying, go have fun, figure out how you want to play this. There are even older games, like I think of Final Fantasy VI. I really struggled with Final Fantasy VI. Like I would do a lot of grinding and just like, to get through it because it was challenging. Playing it as an adult, I'm like, oh, there are so many interesting interlocking systems in this game. I don't have to spend 15, 20 hours grinding. I can just use these systems that I was maybe not old enough to really understand as a kid. But now it's like, oh, I can break this game. Yep. And it was fun, like learning how to do that, like figuring out how to do that. So as an alternative to difficulty levels, and this obviously requires a lot more
there's some skill involved, I think.
There's a lot more effort on the development side too, to make a game like that. Which is why the Souls formula has basically been unchanged since they created it. But like creating systems and using those as the way that you kind of control your difficulty is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel about that?
He will not.
There are also fans who create their own kind of artificial difficulty level. Look at Pokemon with the Nuzlocke?
The Nuzlocke
challenge.
Yeah. I do like to watch people play those, like really fun, like Nuzlocks. Like sometimes, like I've watched a couple of playthroughs of like, and it's a very interesting way because like usually Pokemon is just like it's kids game.
It's geared towards kids.
Yeah, like,
sure,
It's not very hard, but when you limit yourself to like, oh, I can only like one Pokemon, like get a Pokemon per area, and if they die forever.
Permadeath,
and like that's actually a pretty cool process, and I've been.
I think it's a fun way to take something.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, which one or which game would you do it for?
I would probably do it with. I was thinking maybe around this, like, which one was it? Soul Silver, or something like that.
On the DS.
On the DS, where, because I like Silver and Gold in general, and being able to go through Johto and Kanto is the fun part. So I'd probably do it in one of those just for, like, nostalgia.
That's a good one, I think, to do.
Plus, like, extra difficulty.
Yeah.
I know that I've mentioned him on this podcast before, but Tantacles is a YouTuber who does challenge runs. So similar to like a Nuzlocke Pokemon. And there's obviously way more challenge runners out there than Tantacles. He's just the one that I follow. Like setting arbitrary rules for a playthrough of a game. Like I'm only going to use this character, or I'm not going to level up, or I'm not going to use any kind of healing items the whole game. That sort of thing. Like that can be a fun way to, if you are finding, especially with older games, right, that don't have difficulty levels or trophies to get or whatever, like ways to make the game more challenging and more interesting, especially if it's a game you love and you don't mind replaying it. Because I look at like the sessions, I'll watch him stream sometimes, and I'm like, he's on hour 500 of Final Fantasy IX. And it's like, I like Final Fantasy IX a lot. I don't love it enough that I would be willing to put that amount of time into it, but I do enjoy watching people who do like doing that.
Yeah, it's something interesting about watching people who are that dedicated. Like
and just good at the game, right?
There's this another YouTubers that I watch sometimes, Super Breed Bros, and they did a playthrough of like two of the guys played Pokemon Nuzlocke, and they played it at the same time, So you had these two people with different personalities going through the same process of like following each other, and like it was interesting seeing like their reactions to whenever they had their perfect team, and then like they just get destroyed and all of their Pokemon get killed, and like this the sadness that would come from that. I know it's interesting to watch that. It's depressing.
Yeah, that's when the stakes are
like, the stakes are so high.
Like that.
Yeah. It's kind of like playing Fire Emblem when you have, permadeath on
Permadeath.
where you're just like depressed.
Yeah. Speaking of Fire Emblem, though, how do you guys feel about gatekeeping in this kind of topic, as well as accessibility? Because, Fire Emblem, when they came out with Fire Emblem Awakening, they introduced casual mode, which sparked a lot of controversy within the fandom and also just the greater kind of gaming sphere, I would say. So
if I was a fan of the Fire Emblem games back in the day, and they came out with Fire Emblem Awakening and they made permadeath a thing of the past, I would be furious, righteously indignant. That's not what they did, though. Like, they added a mode for people that are interested in that. So that, to me, is like the biggest thing where I just kind of roll my eyes at the internet. It's like, you don't have to do it. You don't
also
have to
increase their, fan base so that you still get Fire Emblem games today.
Exactly.
The problem is that people think, because we spend so much time online in insular communities that are full of people very similar to ourselves, we think that we're like a huge like legion of people that like the people that are hardcore about no casual mode. They think that they're the majority of people that play games. They are sadly mistaken, but they really think that like everybody agrees with me, so like why would you do this? It's like, no, there's so many people out there that are different. I think it's great. If it wasn't clear, I think having a casual mode as an option for things like permadeath especially are great. That's how I play Fire Emblem. I don't mess around with that permadeath stuff. I'm too stressed as it is.
That's 100%.
Why lose characters and potential story beats and dialogues?
Honestly, I think like more options is better. Like, and plus also it's accessibility. There's a lot of people who just don't have like they're either physically or mentally impaired or anything like that might cause them to not be able to get through these things. It gives them the ability to enjoy the games that we love on their level and be able to enjoy
their terms,
like on their terms, on their whatever it is. Like, it's like, why limit the game to just a handful of people who, I mean, I get gatekeeping, like I don't like it.
The reason to do it is because they can do it. It's not, you know what I mean? There's no logical reason for it. It's
they make up logic. They say that
they create made up logic.
Because they think if they allow all these accessibility things, it's going to harm their enjoyment of the game and make their game lesser or something, because it's not, hipster cool to be part of this group who could actually play these games now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's just messed up logic usually, most times.
Yeah, because like as long as you're still given the option that if you did want to play it on like, your crazy mode that you want to play, like permadeath or hard mode or things like that, it's not being taken away from you.
No, the devs won't take that away. Like, I don't think we've seen any cases where that has been the case, right?
Yeah, like usually it's just an option being added, and so like, I feel like there's that whole aspect of like, hey, that doesn't matter. Like, enjoy the game how you want to.
More options, the better.
Yeah.
Right. I know I'm sure they feel like the more people get brought into the gaming space, the more, or like the less likely that they are to have a voice at the table. And I don't think that's really true, but also I wouldn't be terribly upset if it was. You know what I mean?
You just get more games.
There's more games. There's more
games is more fun.
More options and more, you just get to
and if you don't like modern games, just play retro games.
There's so many. You can't. You are not going to live long enough. You're not going to live long enough to play through everything that has come out to this point. So just there's so many options available. Yeah. That's us speaking to people that aren't listening, because I'm sure our listeners are cool and rad and aren't gatekeepers and mean like that. But how do you guys feel about that? I feel like we did a pretty good job. I think we covered it. Did we cover it?
Did we cover it? Maybe we did.
I think we did.
Did we miss something?
Anything that we missed?
The one thing I would like to bring up a little bit of is like creative ways. And we've talked about it. I think we talked about it when David was on. And I brought, like, just to go back, I don't know why I'm talking about Final Fantasy 16 so much in this episode, but because like
sounds like you're a believer.
Apparently, I'm a super fan of.
You're a mega fan.
Yeah, it's a game. It's
fine.
Great. It's fine.
It's fine.
I enjoy it. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Final Fantasy 16.
I enjoyed it. Yeah. Fine.
It's not my favorite, but I still.
I'm mixed about it.
Yeah. There are things that I like about it. There's things I don't like about it.
Sure.
Ultimately, I think I have a positive feeling towards it. But anyways, their accessibility options in that game and how it played into like actual like equipment that you put on and
That's
off,
cool.
and you had a limit of like you can put on only this many, so you have to mix and match, and you can always like change out your mix and match like how you want it to be. And so like I thought, and I'm trying to think of like other, like I don't know if there's any other games that have.
Were they equipped accessories for that? A little bit, yeah.
Sea of Stars
has that.
Oh yes, actually, and I think not equipment, but Chained Echoes has like you can just turn on like it has very like detailed like accessibility where you can switch things on and off, where you can kind of cater it to like only certain things you want like on that will maybe like ease up a few things that you might get.
It kind of reminded me of the abilities menu in like Castlevania Symphony of the Night for some reason was the thing that came to mind, but like focused on accessibility and difficulty and things like that.
Because like some things you're like, I like the difficulty, but there's some things that are just like, this part is really frustrating. And it's kind of cool that you can be like, all right, I'm gonna just get rid of that little piece of it.
I love that. The more granular they can be, rather than just changing a big dial from normal to easy, the more granular they can be about it, the more I am into it.
Yeah.
I like it, but also I get a little overwhelmed if there's too many options.
You could have
when
presets
they keep it simple
too.
with just a couple options.
I think presets, having presets as well is a good strategy. But then if you want to go in and fine tune it, I think that's I love that.
Yeah.
I like the idea of it, but I feel like sometimes the balance could be a little bit off, where I feel like I'm spending too much time tweaking it. But the presets are, I think, a nice compromise for that. For sure.
I agree.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did find that pretty interesting. Like creative ways to add accessibility and easies versus like difficulty levels and whatnot. But
So if you guys were to choose any game to replay on difficulty mode, like a hard difficulty mode, maybe nightmare mode, which game would it be? Dallah, you kind of mentioned doing a Nuzlocke challenge, but outside of that,
I would probably go back to Trails every time. Like, I don't know which.
Those are fun to replay
games, because like I will always have fun probably replaying Trails games, and I think the battle system is it's so creative enough that like there's truly a challenge. Like it is strategic how you do things. So like, but also I'd probably get my butt handed to me in nightmare mode. So yeah, there it is.
That's part of the fun, right?
Yeah.
I might go, just based on my experience with the game on normal mode, I might actually go Fantasian.
Really?
Neo Dimension. Ooh. It's a hard game. So let me be blunt. Fantasian is a hard game.
Yeah.
Normal mode is very hard. And the hard mode, I'm like, there's a hard mode? That's crazy to me that it's harder somehow. But Fantasian is one of these games where even if I keep losing to a boss, I can tell why I'm losing. It never feels cheap. And I'm like, I can do this. I need to make some tweaks here. I need to do this, do that. But I know I can beat it. So I think if that challenge translated nicely into hard mode, I think I would probably enjoy Fantasian on hard mode.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, Dallah, I think you took mine, because I would love to play Daybreak or something on nightmare mode and to kind of see if my orbment kind of configuring abilities are up to snuff.
You can say the same thing. It's fine.
No, I'm going to say another one, except it's not necessarily I'm increasing to difficulty mode. I want to increase it to normal mode, and that is an SMT game, because I want to be in the camp saying, I played this game on normal mode. So maybe SMT 4 or a Devil Survivor Overclocked or something.
Yeah.
So maybe one day I'll try to replay it and see if I could actually do normal mode, because easy mode was hard enough for me. So we'll see. I got to practice a little bit more, I think, with more SMT games and get all those systems down before committing.
Yeah. Those SMT games, even on easy mode, they're hard.
Yeah,
They're very hard.
It's crazy.
And I was really afraid to start them. That's why I started with easy mode. I'm like, oh, this is this level already?
Yeah.
Everybody talks about how hard they are, yeah.
I'm not going to go to normal mode at this rate.
It's rough. But yeah, I mean, I think that was a good topic. I think we've said a lot. Like,
there's a surprising amount of meat on that bone.
Yeah.
There's a lot to say about it. I feel like we have a decent range of perspective on it.
Yeah.
I think we maybe lean a little towards more like the story mode.
In normal
in
mode.
broad strokes, like starting on normal and kind of. I don't think any of us are, hardcore.
We're not aficionados.
In that way. No,
yeah,
no.
We're not.
But that's
not real gamers. Whatever that means.
Not real. Certainly not real gamers. Never pretended to be a real gamer.
Roast us, guys. Roast us.
Yeah, roast us in the comments, and also let us know, of course, down in the comments. How you feel about difficulty modes.
Yeah.
What difficulty you start on.
Has it changed over time?
And has it changed over time? Or comment about anything you want.
Yeah.
We're not your boss.
Leave us any feedback. Love to hear from you guys.
Or just random
So did you guys
about Branden. It's fine.
Let me know what you think about me, and rest assured I will take it to heart and dwell on it for days and days. If it's bad, if it's good, I'll be like, oh, that was so nice, and then I'll move on. But the bad stuff I will
just
internalize.
It lingers.
And make a new personality quirk out of it. Anyway, do you guys want to talk about some of the stuff that you're buying and or playing?
Yes.
Yes.
That's a great idea. Let's jump.
Why don't we do that?
Who wants to start?
Who wants to start?
I think Emily should start.
Emily should start.
I can start?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I have no pickups to share because I'm on a low buy. I have some things coming in the mail, but it's not going to be a while before they probably get here. But I did recently finally beat Trails Through Daybreak. And really loved this game. Arguably, maybe my favorite Trails game at the moment, though there might be some recency bias in this. But I just love Van. I think he is one of the best protagonists. It's hard for me to knock Estelle off her pedestal because I love Estelle. She's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
it feels so blasphemous. But maybe once I play the remake coming out later this year, I'll see how I feel about who the best protagonist.
The scale a little bit.
Yeah,
that's true.
Who's the best protagonist in Trails? We'll see how it goes. Yeah. But so far, he's at least my favorite male character in Trails.
Yes.
Maybe my favorite video game male character. Yeah. Maybe.
Yeah.
He's pretty great. But yeah, I really liked the story. It feels like it's such a more mature take to the Trails franchise as a whole, which is very refreshing, coming from all the previous entries. And I think they go through a lot of, hardships and scenarios that have, again, kind of hit that mature quality a little more than the previous games, which I just found so refreshing.
Yeah.
And then I love the battle system. We talked about that a little bit earlier today. And kind of what they did with the orbment system, where they kind of basically tell you, like, if you have these different quartz in the orbment that they use for their ciphers, what they call it, I think, in this particular arc, you could kind of get different enhanced abilities and things like that. So it was I had a lot of fun just playing around with that and rebalancing my characters. And I don't know about you guys, but when I play Trails, I tend to stick with the same characters and same party and just try to make them really good.
Yeah.
I don't really go with the other people who come in later on.
I kind of hate that I do that, but I do that.
I do that.
I want to try to be better about branching out, but it's like...
It's hard to. Once you build up some characters and then the new characters come in, like, oh, now I have to build them up.
Yeah.
So it takes more time. Maybe that's why Branden and I flew through this game so quickly, because we didn't rebalance everyone. And there are some areas or parts of the game, like, you have to use everyone. So that made it a little bit more challenging on some respect. But but overall, I think it's a great entry. I'm really excited for Daybreak 2 coming out. And getting to have new Trails on the horizon.
Just a month. Yeah, just a month from now.
Just a month.
Yeah.
Less than a month, I think, when this airs, or is it exactly what month? It might be
almost
exactly
a month.
Almost exactly. It would be just a day off than a month.
Yeah, just a day off.
Yeah, less than a month, technically. Then.
But Abdallah, you want to share a little bit of your playthrough so far? Because you're in the middle of it too.
Yeah, I'm about about almost like 2/3 in, I guess. I am loving every moment. Kind of in the same vein as Emily is like, this is probably I'm gonna see how it ends, but I'm leaning towards this is probably my favorite game of the series so far, which is crazy.
I know.
I just think it's just like the Van. He's best boy. He's just
best boy.
He is so good. I love him. Such a good character. His relationship and the character development between him and all the other characters are really wonderful. I think they do a really good job of developing these characters in a very believable way, with him being like this, like, I don't know, just like how they. I don't want to get too much into it, but
Falcom just does a really good job at making them real, right?
Yeah,
and
like they do.
Their relationships just feel real and tangible.
Yeah, like really good relationships. Like kind of what you're saying. I don't know if it's. I think my favorite character in Trails, but we'll see after the remake of Trails in the Sky, because Estelle's hard to beat, but I don't know. Van's got that edge.
She's best Estelle for a reason.
Right.
She's best Estelle.
To me,
for
I
a
think
reason.
the Van is edging in towards being my favorite, just because he's more relatable. Like, I know he's only 24,
Exactly.
but in the Trails universe and in
He's an
anime
old
in
man.
general, he's like the oldest person.
He's
that's
called
ever
the old
lived.
man all the time.
They really bring it up constantly.
Hammer that fact
So
to you.
it's nice to not, it's nice to be able to relate more to the main character just on a personal level. I have a lot in common with Van, and I appreciate that.
100%.
Appreciate seeing that on the screen. So
Yeah. And I like
and
that he
not
plays
playing
that.
as a kid.
Yeah, and I like that he's like being a Spriggan, he skirts the line of like morality and stuff like that, and like, and he seems more relatable in that way of like, it's not always like power of friendship or the power of this and power of that. It's more of like just like logic of like, hey, do things that make sense, because sometimes you might have to go down the gray area. So like I like that, like it does play but more into like the reality of like, not too. I mean, it's still like super anime like, and like there's still the power of friendship that everybody has, but it gives you a little bit more of like a seriousness that is more realistic,
More believable for sure.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah,
Add some extra grit.
I'm in the deep thralls of that game right now. So after all this recording, I will probably jump back in and play that for the rest of the night. Other than that, I do have one pickup, and I know Branden is also going to share this as well, but this came in. I haven't opened it
Speaking
yet.
Speaking
of Falcom, I got E's Oath of Felghana. I'm excited to play this because I haven't played this one yet. You
didn't play the OG?
I haven't played the OG at all, but it does look really good, and I got it on the PS5 just because, I don't know, I mostly get everything on the PS5 nowadays, and until the Switch 2 comes out, and then I feel inclined to buy Switch versions again. But I'm super pumped for this game, and just looks like some fun ease time.
Had you played Oath and Felghana before or no?
I have not. No.
Okay, yeah, it's a great one. I have that. I have high esteem for that one.
I'm glad to hear that because I'm gonna play it.
Yeah, I hear this remake. God, I think pretty universally like praised reviews.
It's got good reviews.
Yeah. I mean, I want to say it's not. I don't know if it's technically a remake. They call it remastered. I think it's just a port of the
enhanced.
PC. Yeah, the PC
they
version.
Changed
They
a
added
few
some new
things
character
like
portraits
artwork and stuff like that. The character portraits and stuff like that. And like
I think they added some voice lines
upscaled.
too.
They may have, yeah.
I think adult does speak a little bit.
Voice acting for adults, like, well, he has spoken in other games, so I wouldn't say it's long awaited. And then they have. So speaking of difficulty levels, the topic of the show, you can experiment with turbo mode or difficulty adjustments like no fall mode.
No fall.
So
mode.
adding these kind of like refined things to just address like particular problems that people might have in playing the game. I think that's
when
smart.
playing the demo at AX, I had to resort to the easy mode because I kept dying from to get that fire band or something. How do you dodge these? I don't know what I'm doing.
That boss was brutal.
That was the first thing I did. I was like, what the heck?
Right. They drop you into that in the demo.
They just drop you into that. I'm like, oh,
play this
I'm not ready for this.
extremely difficult boss. Yeah. Yeah. East.
So no
East
shame
Memoir,
in doing that.
East Memoir, The Oath and Felgana. Great game. Got an acrylic diorama / keychain set.
Yeah.
CD soundtrack. I wonder if it's
I really like how Xseed and Marvelous, they have nice packaging for their launch editions. Their games.
And a microfiber cloth.
And I was going to say microfiber cloths. I'm excited about that, so I can clean.
I don't like it when the
gadgets.
fibers are too big. I like it when they're really small. Micro.
That way I can clean my phone.
You guys don't have glasses,
everything.
right? Or do you?
I do, but I just wear them at night.
Yeah, reading glasses, night glasses. They're handy for that.
So I also have Clock Tower.
Oh.
Rewind.
Oh, you picked that up.
Which is the Way Forward remake of or re-release of
the classic horror game.
Clock Tower. Yes. And it's a Clock Tower is a very storied series. It has not seen a lot of entries. I have not actually played any of them. I've watched YouTube videos of people playing the original Clock Tower.
Yeah.
So I thought, hey, here's an opportunity to have it, and now I have it. I also picked up, finally, Shin Megami Tensei for the Nintendo 3DS. Yeah, PNP, I think, had found some in the back,
they had a sale.
Back office.
It was like $35 or something. Really cheap.
So I was
nowadays.
like, I have it digitally, but I feel like I should have it. And also, I feel like I'm more likely to get back to trying it again if I physically have it.
That's true.
Because I've tried twice. I think I mentioned I tried twice to get into it and just fell off of it both times. First, because I got lost so bad and I was very frustrated.
Wow. Yeah, the Tokyo map's not fun.
It's not great. Yeah. So anyway, that's what I'm working with right now. The game I'm playing currently, I'm not allowed to say for embargo reasons. But it's a game. I
wanted to mention.
Cool.
I started this one.
You started Harvestella.
I started Harvestella. I'm not that far in, but I'm curious where this is going to take me because I am getting major Rune Factory vibes from it. So I'm going to have to say the combat, is there no dodge in it?
I don't remember. Wow.
Because I just find it frustrating. Like you're attacking the monsters and you can't dodge or easily step back. But maybe I just haven't figured out how to do that or I haven't received that ability yet.
I need to replay it because I don't actually recall if there's a dodge.
But I like the story bits. There seems to be a cool mix of sci-fi in there, so I'm curious where it's going to go.
It was completely not what I was expecting. Within the first 20 minutes, you're exploring an abandoned spaceship. It's like, okay, this is not what I thought it was going to be. Very cool. I like you posted on Twitter the evidence that you were playing it and people were praising it for one, but insulting it on the other hand. And there were some interesting insults being thrown around. And I pardon the language, but I just want to share. One of them said it was they called it shit Stella. And I commented on the tweet. I'm like, seriously? You're going to call it shit Stella when Harvest Smella was right there? That. So easy. I cannot abide. Harvest Stella is one of my favorite games of all time. So I don't abide insulting it. But if you're going to insult it, at least
be creative.
They gave you this. They packaged it up for you and put it right down, and you just walked by. You just left it. Yeah. And I can't abide that. I can't abide that.
If you're going to be a troll, at least be a creative one.
Be a creative troll.
Right?
Then you stand out.
Exactly.
In a positive way.
You could just be like,
for once in your life.
At least you tried.
Anyways.
Yeah. I'm excited to see where this takes me and might do a video on it in the future. We'll see.
We shall see.
Harvestella from Emily's perspective. I'm excited for that video if that ever drops. So.
It should. I might ask someone to help me, but we'll see.
We'll see.
Branden,
we'll see.
Emily collab on that.
We'll see. We don't know.
We'll see.
We don't know what's going to happen.
Know.
Who knows?
Watch me hate this game, and I don't want to make a video on it.
Right.
No,
she might hate it and be like, I wasted enough of my time.
Especially if she hates it, you guys need to make a video.
If she hates it and we make a video, I'm just going to be curled in the fetal position sobbing. That's going to be the video.
That's why I want to see it.
Yeah, it's unfair.
That's not entertaining for anybody.
I don't know. I feel like
maybe for Dalla.
Like
Dalla would find that enjoyable. That's it, though.
I'll laugh at it for a little bit. And then I just feel bad and just come come bring you like a blanket or something.
No, it's fine. It's not a game for everybody. It's okay if people don't like it. Anyway, that's it.
Yeah.
Everybody, right?
That's the show.
That's the show.
That's the show.
It's been great.
So it's been great. We've loved talking with each other, and we hope that you've enjoyed listening to it.
Yeah.
We're going to record our after show now. So if you are a Pursuer level member, I hope you enjoy the after show as well.
Yeah. Come join.
You never know what's going to happen there. So
I got some ideas, some things to bring up that might be not necessarily appropriate for this episode.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes.
We'll see.
Gotta have an outlet for that stuff.
Emily, let's.
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody, for watching, for listening, for tuning in, like you always do. We really appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Catch you next
I guess
week.
goodbye.
Until next week.
Take care.
Bye.